Doug, how you doing tonight?
I am doing fantastic. Thank you for your patience. I actually logged on 10 minutes beforehand and didn't realize you couldn't see me.
Well, and I couldn't. I saw a little box pop up, but nothing came up with it. I couldn't hear or see anything.
But as you were saying, the mobile device, I was getting it out. I was like, maybe this will work. So we're on. That's all that matters.
Exactly.
Thanks for your patience.
Well, it is my absolute pleasure, and thank you so much for coming on. Our first show was a big hit. I mean, really, it went over very, very well. So I'm expecting the same with this show as well. Why don't we start out with? I'd like you to explain this. Hold on, let me get my screen share going. There we are. This to me. So have you officially announced?
Wow. Man, you're savvy. That's like brand new too. There's no announcement yet. It's just asking people's opinions on which logo they like better. So.
I picked the very first one. I think it has all the class. I really like how Mastriano stands out. And for governor, of course, I don't think there's anybody listening right now that does not think that you won't be the next governor of Pennsylvania there. So,
well, thank you. I mean, it's a huge decision. Yeah, Rebby and I are praying about it right now, and our grassroots is still in place. Although we had a setback in 22, it's not the end of the world. I remember Bob Casey Sr. He ran for governor 4 times before he won. We're gonna if we do it, Sergey, we're gonna win it. And let me lay out why. Because we had a record-setting number of signatures to get on the ballot, almost 29,000, more than any other Republican ever. Wow. Almost all of my competitors paid people to collect signatures. This was all free grassroots. And we had the highest turnout, the most votes of any Republican since 1962 for governor, and the second highest in our state's history. Wow. With that kind of movement, we learned some lessons over the last go-around, and with that kind of backing, we're going to pull it off.
I really think you will. And one of the things that we have seen with the Clear Skies movement is that it doesn't take a massive amount of people to win something. It takes massive dedication, and you have that. And of course, like I always tell people, we here at the Clear Skies movement, we do not endorse anybody, but we will endorse you. You are our pick.
Oh, thanks.
So why don't we move on, of course, to SB 508, and it's still in the Ag Committee. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's still there. I know a lot of people have reached out. Keep persevering. Why? Your voice does matter. Look what you did in Florida. It seemed like it was stalemated and stagnated, and you guys mobilized and got the folks to make phone calls. That should be Pennsylvania. And I spoke with Senate leadership 2 weeks ago, and he said, Senator Pittman, and he said, a lot of people have I said, I like movement on 508, and he says a lot of people have contacted my office about that. So your voice is being heard. It is making a difference. And so, he expressed support for it, which is a big deal. So we just need it out of committee. That's the next step.
So can you have Melissa or Jennifer get me the emails and the phone numbers that we need to flood to get it out of committee?
Yeah, that's completely doable.
I don't think they know what is going to be coming at them. It's it's going to be a tidal wave, a veritable tsunami, bigger than the one in Alaska.
I know. And obviously, just to state the obvious, always be polite. Benjamin Franklin from Pennsylvania, he said it's easier to catch flies with honey than with vinegar. When I'm confronted occasionally by an angry, disgruntled Democrat, right away I shut down. I don't. If they're attacking me and calling names, I don't. They make me defend and double down. Like nothing you say matters. But if you come in and hey, let's have a conversation.
Right.
I'd really like you to move this bill. I believe in that we need this legislation moved. Would you consider moving it, that right there is like, hey, this is a reasonable person here, not making demands, not insulting, my manhood, and it's someone I could work with.
Well, and that is the one thing that we really pride ourselves in. We are not indignant. We don't insult people. What we do is we just, I don't want to say forcibly, but we don't necessarily just ask. We tell the people that we're calling that this is what we want in no uncertain terms. We're not rude about it, but like you say, sometimes people just have to know that that the constituents want something done, and it's their job to do what the masses are asking.
Yes. So during the reopen movement, which I was part of here in Pennsylvania during the ghastly days of 20 and 21 with the shutdown and the masking and all that BS, I was trying to force a vote to reopen the state in defiance of the governor's edicts. And we became the first and only state in the nation to overrule a governor's power for emergency powers. Actually, we had a constitutional amendment, but to get there, painful, just kind of like this. And there was one of my colleagues, from the eastern side of the state. He wouldn't get on board. I think he was with the leadership, and kind of opposed to us. And I asked people on a live one time to call their senators. That was a Friday. On a Monday, Sergey, he got back with me. He represents 250,000 people. He said, I got 65, only 65. He didn't say only, I'm saying he got 65 phone calls of his 250,000 people. Yeah. And that was enough for him to change his vote and support the reopen movement. So sometimes it doesn't take a lot.
Yeah. We put, I'm sure you're aware of this, but to the 119th Congress for the one big beautiful bill, they had two pieces of legislation, 1378 and 2770, that would have allowed for AI to take over the massively powerful weather forecasting and weaponization of that against whoever. We didn't like that in the bill, and there was a 10-year moratorium, essentially.
Yes.
And so we put thousands of calls and emails. This is the kind of thing that, like I say, it doesn't take 20 million of us. If 1,000 of us call, I think that we can get things done, and that excites me. And it's one of the things I know because we've talked before, but it's one of the things that truly excites me about America is that we are truly still a representative republic. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that Americans have become lazy in their defense of freedom, because freedom, it takes a lot of work.
Yeah, we have to be vigilant. In 1787 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where this all began in the 70s, Benjamin Franklin came out of Independence Hall with a colleague, and a Mrs. Powell from Philadelphia ran over to him and says, well, Mr. Franklin, do we have a monarchy or republic? And you know this. He said, a republic if you can keep it.
That's exactly
and so
right.
The insight is brilliant. It's like, we have one right now, but if you don't maintain it, if you don't vote, if you're not a participant, this republic will go away. And Abraham Lincoln reminded of us that in my district in Gettysburg on November 19th, 1863, a few months after the Battle of Gettysburg, when he gave his famous address, he said something that's reflective of Franklin. He goes, it is now for us the living to be dedicated to the unfinished work. It's up to us, the living, to be dedicated to the unfinished work. A republic, if you can keep it, we have to maintain it. And it's not that hard. And, we had a great victory in November. That's the start. That's not enough. Every election, every judicial election this year, every local government election this year, next year it's a big time. The entire House is up for grabs, a third of the Senate in D.C., many 20-some governor's races here. So this is our time, and we have to stay active. Otherwise, we'll lose the republic.
You're exactly right. I think that the last time that I had you on the show, we were speaking to about 10,000 people a week as a movement. We have upped that now to we probably connect with close to 1 million people here a week, hear our message through any number of platforms. I think the constant that I am hearing is people now want to get up in the morning and start working towards that republic because they now realize it is if they can keep it. And it is our duty of the living to go out there and work so hard. So speaking of that, you got the governorship in your sights. As governor, if you have some difficulties with getting 508 passed, the last time we spoke, you mentioned that you are not you're not shy about saying, I will put an EO up and we'll do it that way. Is that still on the table?
That's 100% absolutely true. Look, and I still can't believe, Sergey, that there's still people out there to think this is a conspiracy. This has been going on since the 1960s under JFK. We have 9 states that are paying millions of dollars every year, such as Mr. Rainmaker in Texas.
Yeah.
2-3 weeks ago. Does that line up with anything significant? Yeah. California, Colorado, Idaho, Nevada, New Mexico, North Dakota, Texas, Utah, Wyoming. It's going on. But the only thing that you and I discuss is putting our fingers on at the federal level, because what we're seeing over in the stratosphere is largely a federal program, I believe, probably a classified federal program.
Right.
But a governor has a National Guard and has an Air National Guard. And although most governors don't have interceptors anymore, that went away with the Cold War, they do have an Air National Guard with radars and systems that can track aircraft. And that becomes the enforcement tool. And then we can identify these aircraft, find out where they're coming, and then launch that lawsuit against the federal government here for polluting our skies without my consent. They're spraying the skies, and we do not consent.
Right. Civil forfeiture, is that part of it? Can you do that as the government or as the governor, or do you have to wait for that lawsuit and do it through that path?
If we can identify, and I'm still checking my air trackers, Sergey, from time to time, and I look at the sky, and I haven't caught any with their transponders on, and I'm seeing them above me. Every other aircraft, whether military or civilian, their transponders on, I can tell you who they are, where they're going, except those guys.
Right.
The governor has immense executive power if he or she chooses to use it, and in this case here, yes. And if we could find out who's that jet is, where it's coming from, they're in violation of state law. It's a felony, $500,000 every violation. We're going to service them. The state police will go visit them and give them a felony charge, enforceable with perhaps a sheriff.
I like that.
And you have the assets. The hard thing in Pennsylvania, let's say we get 508, accomplished. I don't know the current governor's position on this here, whether he'll enforce it, but that's a different discussion. Let's get the law in place one thing at a time. We can't worry about, this or that enforcement. We need a law to change. And we have a law that exists from 1967 from my district, Franklin County, from Chambersburg and Fulton County. There was a bunch of farmers setting weather balloons up with chemicals in these weather balloons, and they're designed to burst at a certain elevation. And their design was to limit the amount of crop damage from hailstorms. Apparently in the 60s, there's a lot of hailstorms. It's
right.
seasonal. And it was destroying their crops. And so a law came into place. So we have a law already saying this can't go on without regulation. But there's no teeth in it. This bill 508 puts teeth in it. You do this, you're under a felony, $500,000 every time.
I love that. Yeah. No, by the way, Doug, Senator Mastriano, this is Dawn. She is my sidekick. She's going to, we've got some questions from the live chat. Do you mind if we take some for you?
Go for it.
All right, baby, go ahead.
Good evening. Babushka wants to know, Doug, what you think of Marjorie Taylor Greene's bill.
I got to be honest, I haven't read it. We've been in session this week working on a budget for the state, a $50 billion budget. So I don't know what the meat of it is. Maybe you can educate me and I'll give you an opinion.
It was. I spoke with Susan Clark from Zero Geoengineering and 05G this afternoon, and yesterday we had a discussion as well about this. So HR 4403 is patterned after Florida's SB 56. I said to her that I would rather it be patterned after 508. And she said, yes, I was involved in that. And there's good things about both the bills. What is your thought about SB 56 as opposed to your 508?
Yeah, so obviously know a little bit more about the Florida legislation. And, if it's a copy of that here, I think the enforcement in teeth is not as strong as the Pennsylvania Bill 508. So it's too bad. But, in her defense, though, she's elevated discussion now at the national level where we need it. And I just don't know why Elon, when he was on job there, why he didn't identify this $3 to $5 billion program to eliminate. We're talking, I was watching Zeldin talking about saving $790 million annually with the cuts in federal employees. Well, we could beat that, fourfold here by cutting this program instantly. So I don't know where the hangup is. I think hiding behind the cloak of classification is hurting us here. But to answer Babushka's question, and thank you, Babushka, for what you do out there, because he's another strong voice. It's a great step in the right direction. And if the feds do it, really a lot of our debates in the states become moot, although I still do want to have a state law.
Right. I think it is vitally important to have state laws in place, whether the federal government does it or not. If the federal government does, then of course it's going to be much easier for states to pass the laws. But I think that we need that as the fail-safe in case we get another tyrannical administration in that is hell-bent on putting these programs back. Are you aware that the Chicago Exchange, right, the commodities exchange, you can trade weather?
Wow, no, I was not aware.
Multi-trillion-dollar a year trading thing, but you have to have a lot of money to get into it. And you take a contract and you bet whether the weather is going to be good, bad, or indifferent in this state or in that country or whatever. And they have certain times of year that you can do it. The monsoon areas and that sort of thing are in play. But in America, it is year around. I have some problem with this. And I think that it is the dirty little secret that nobody really knows about. And so if we are allowing those who manipulate the weather to trade the weather, is that a conflict of interest?
It would be if there's companies out there, and there are, making money off of, seeding the skies. You think about China. China has the largest cloud seeding program globally. About half of their country is being experimented on with ground generators, rockets, aircraft, even more, tenfold what we have here. And so could you imagine Chinese wagering a bet on the weather there and then putting your thumb on the scale to make money?
Right. I mean, that's exactly what it seems like. We've got Tim Sheehy up there in Montana, and he owns a fleet of these 747 sized, tankers that put out fires. And he is the co-sponsor of the bill that we called and had pulled out of the One Big Beautiful Bill to weaponize the weather with AI. And we can't do anything for 10 years. I mean, it's just, it's that type of politician that makes all the good politicians look bad.
First off, thank you to your movement for getting that 10-year prohibition on AI activities in the states. Pennsylvania, we want to regulate AI in our Commonwealth. Mm-hmm. And that was the biggest thing that we in the Republican Senate caucus were opposed to. Is like, you can't do this to us. You can't say you have no influence or input at the state level here on AI. And for a decade, that would be catastrophic. So thank you. Your people have made a big difference. And as somebody on the inside in Pennsylvania here, thank you for giving us power to be able to put regulations and controls on that.
Absolutely. We're only 4.5 months old. And
wow.
I know, I mean, I can't believe it. Every day I wake up, I'm like, it's only been, we're literally rolling into our, I think that tomorrow is our actual 4.5 month birthday. Yeah. It's just, I'm telling you, Doug, it's the people though. I mean, regardless of anything that I did,
You're
Chrissy,
very good at rallying people together.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's the people that just drive me, and I'm sure that you feel the same way.
Yeah.
let's take a closer look at the question of, and because this is probably the number one thing that I hear online, is that states can only control up to 1,200 feet, 1,500 feet, 1,400 feet, something like that. My argument is that, yes, the FAA, DARPA, NOAA, right, they can control flying through that, right? They have the regulation of that. My point is they don't have the right. There's nothing in the law that says that they're allowed to poison or do harm to the people. And it's the states that have the right to protect their citizens. Am I correct in that?
I 100% agree with your interpretation of the law. Yes, the FAA, NOAA, DARPA, and others do control the airspace above 12,000 feet. That's a fact. But that does not mean they have the right to dump contaminants or anything else over the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, especially when our state constitution says we have the right to clean air, water, and land.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. And to do anything, even if a federal law requires consent of the people. And since when were we asked in any state if this was okay? So they do have the right to use the airspace to fly through, but not to dump stuff.
So Article 1, Section 27, they have the right to clean water, clean air. And if you are a governor rather, your government has the ability and the duty to enforce that, correct?
100% true. Okay, so now we get into the fight between the supremacy clause and the federal government and states' rights here. And so this would, in the end, so it would be us getting the facts, finding the aircraft, finding the perpetrator, serving them with notice that they owe us a lot of money in fines, and then in the end it's going to go to the Third Circuit. Whatever outcome is going to be appeal to the Supreme Court. And I do believe and know that the Supreme Court, with fair strong confidence, especially with the composition of the court right now, that they will weigh in favor of the state, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, in this case, because it's not use of the airspace, it's dumping of contaminants without the consent of the government or the people of Pennsylvania, in violation and contravention to their state protected rights to clean air.
And the reason that I wanted to drill down on that is because it seems to be misinterpreted by everybody. Actually, it's more of a recording. Somebody said it, somebody else says it, somebody else says it, and suddenly everybody thinks that that's the way it is. And law is a funny thing. There are loopholes. There's ways around it, and our country is designed to give us the ability to fight the government. We're not controlled by the government. We're represented by the government. I think that I think that is a distinction that has to be made. So when we're looking at states' rights, I remember when Texas finally decided to close down the border, and the federal government was thinking about coming at them. I listened to Ken Paxton, who was the DA at the time, saying that they were going to start banding together with other states to fight the federal government. Is that something that you have thought about? Is that something that Pennsylvania would do if the federal government gives you a hard time?
Yes, 100%. And so the deal would be is banning, let's say Pennsylvania passes it this year and it's signed into law, then that would be Pennsylvania joining with other states with similar laws, whether it's Tennessee and Florida, and doing a joint lawsuit here against the federal government here. That strengthens the case. The more states, the merrier, the more legal brain power you bring. But, in the end, it's implicit that controlling the airspace is just flying through it. There's nowhere that it gives authority to the government to start dumping stuff or spraying things. Right. And what goes up must come down. So whatever they're putting up there is coming down and trickling down to our people, into our animals, into our fields and waters and air. And that is just so germane to the argument here. It seems obvious that they're in violation of citizens' rights by doing this. We haven't consented. Who would consent to this anyway?
That's the problem that I have right there. Transparency and consent. We were never asked about this, and now it's just happening. One thing that we have, I don't know if you know who Steve Jarvis is. But he is a regenerative farmer up in the Panhandle here in Idaho. He has been to Washington, D.C. He's met with RFK. He's tried to get a meeting with the president. He was supposed to meet with Pete Hegseth. And the reason that he was meeting is because he has a plan to put 1 million of small farms back into America. Now, over the last decade, we've lost 1,400,000 farms.
Wow.
But these are the farms that the local people can sustain on. One of the problems that he's having is that his soil is being the bacteria in the soil is just being absolutely butchered by the heavy metals. And he's got soil samples, water samples, air samples that prove that. Is there a plan, or would you consider a plan to help put more farms? Because I don't know if I told you this the first time, but both my parents were from Pennsylvania. I've got a deep connection to the Marie Antoinette Valley and Harrisburg. My grandfather owned some 500,000 acres there for years. I never knew the man. I really didn't know them, but I have always had a soft spot in my heart for Pennsylvania. I've spent a couple of weeks there, drove through those beautiful, absolutely gorgeous rolling mountains. My question is there a way that not just you and your state, but is there a way that that states can start to work together to get this plan to start rebuilding farms, local farms in the state?
Well, so I'm on the ag committee here in the state. My counties, I have a lot of orchards in Adams County, Gettysburg area, and I have a lot of pastures and farmland here in Franklin County. So I have a great diversity. Pennsylvania is like the second greatest producer of apples in the nation, after the Northwest. And we and our farmers are struggling. Their land's being bought up by solar companies. It's this beautiful, top quality soil, best farmland you find in the world. They're putting hundreds of acres of solar panels on it. They'll never be farmed again. They go in there sometimes to strip the dirt out.
It's horrifically toxic too.
Yeah. And now they're struggling as well, the farmers, because we have our Department of Environmental Protection, which has been underneath Democrat governors for a decade now, coming in and seeing a puddle of water, and that becomes a meadowland all of a sudden. Mm-hmm. So yes, absolutely. I do whatever it takes to help our farmers. My own wife's family came in from Scotland in 1732 in this area by Letterkenny up the street from Chambersburg, and they've been farmers since the 1700s until the government came in with the eminent domain and took her grandfather's farm away. It was a heartbreaking thing. And so yes, this is near and dear and personal to my family, especially my wife.
I think that it's something that needs to be addressed sooner than later, because the wind farms and the solar farms they're highly subsidized. They're not even paying for themselves. Right. They're extremely toxic. You can't dismantle them and reuse any of the product for anything else. And so they're burying these multi-football field size propellers. There we go. I got that out because they can't do anything with them.
I know.
At what point do we start injecting more sanity into governance?
By letting the free market drive it. These so-called renewables wouldn't survive without taxpayer subsidies. These solar farms are heavily subsidized, and it's a temporary fix. We're seeing lots of problems. We saw it happen in the West out there when a hailstorm came in. I think it was Nebraska, and they knocked out thousands of panels. You see your glass is shattered. And what happens with those toxic chemicals in there from China, largely too, by the way, the arsenic and other stuff bleaching in the ground. We saw the great freeze in Texas a couple of years ago, and their windmills weren't operating. Texas, an oil state, number two in the nation after Alaska, and they couldn't put energy in the homes because they were relying upon windmills. Are you kidding me here?
Doug, when we spent a year down in Corpus Christi a number of years ago, and then we loaded back up and we drove all the way up through Texas and beautiful countryside. And about dusk, we started to come on a huge windmill farm.
Yeah.
babe, how it took us
was
about an hour
Yeah, it was
for us to
massive.
drive through the whole thing.
Yeah.
I mean, and rolling, big, beautiful rolling hills, just covered with them. But there's a hum, right? I mean, it was. Remember
Yeah.
the sound? It's like a vibration, and that vibration has got to be traveling. And you know, like I've been saying for days now, we've lost 30% of our bird population in the last 10 years. What have we built in the last 10 years? Well, we have built a heck of a lot of these wind farms that can take out a flock of birds like that. I mean, they just can't navigate through those blades. And if they get caught in it, it's a death trap for them. And not just birds. I mean, it does so much destruction. Pennsylvania has solar farms and wind farms. Is there a way to legislate that out and start returning some of that very beautiful and highly sought after farmland? You know, can the state help regenerate that soil? And can we get it back to the people? Is there a legal pathway, or are we stuck with these horrendous solar farms and windmill farms?
The existing ones are here to stay until their contract runs out. But I do have good news. I do have a Senate bill introduced. It's been introduced for about a year and a half now. And basically, it prohibits the use of prime farmland for any of this, especially solar farms. And it encourages, incentivizes using our slack. We have lots of mines. There's lots of slack fields, brown fields, old warehouse areas. I got a mall down the street.
Mm-hmm.
Chambers Mall that's shut down. This massive parking lot that I'm relearning how to do my motorcycle on. Why don't we use that parking lot instead of the farmland around the corner? The parking lot's more than ample.
Yeah.
And so the bill would say no more of that. One more thing on these crazy policies. So, New York State has Marcellus Shale, as we do. The
Right.
shale is where we get our liquefied natural gas. We're number 2 in the nation. But remember when Boston had we had a really cold winter, I think in 2017,
Yep.
maybe 2016. Anyway, about a decade ago. We could not get liquefied natural gas to them. They're running out of fuel for the homes. People are on the brink of freezing in Boston. And instead of buying American, they couldn't because these Democrat policies that prohibit pipelines across New York. What do? They bought 2 tanker ships in from Siberia, enriching Putin's war machine.
Yeah.
They brought in Russian liquefied natural gas to fuel their cities, and this is madness here.
It is.
But in the end, we have all these issues here. But the most despairing thing, Revy and I, as an intel officer, the Army's intel schools at Fort Huachuca, Arizona, south of Tucson on the Mexico border. Almost every day I walked outside, Sergey, and it was blue skies. And you just have to feel good about it. But in Pennsylvania, we're known for cloudy weather because we are the mid-Atlantic. But when we finally do get blue skies, I look up and I feel helpless when I see these lines, these artificial lines growing. It's not a condensation trail. It's not evaporating. It's expanding. And the helplessness that people feel.
Yeah.
You think about the psychological effects because the sunshine, there's less vitamin D, it's less healthy. We don't know what's coming down. The other day after spraying, we had a lot of heavy rains. I live by the Appalachian Trail. I live on a mountain.
Right.
And I went out the trail, and it smelled like metal there. And I had no factories nearby, and I knew what it was.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't smell, didn't feel. It should have been healthy. After a rain, you're going to take a deep breath and say, "Oh, that's disgusting."
Exactly.
So this needs to stop. And so I'm encouraging people, wherever you live in whatever state, if your state doesn't have legislation right now, I guess we just have Tennessee and Florida that have signed into law here. Get your legislators motivated. You'll find a champion for this here. My focus obviously is Pennsylvania, and I do believe if the people stay active and engaged, that we'll get this moved out of committee. And with the thoughts expressed by the Senate leader to me, I'm convinced he'll run it once he gets it in his hands.
I absolutely love that. Now, you've got another piece of legislation that deals with ivermectin. Can you tell me a little about that?
Yeah, so ivermectin is one of the safest, best proven drugs out there. It's even safer than some of the pain medications we use over the counter here. But you can't get it; you have to get a prescription. And then when we had the craziness of 2020, of course, if you dare to want to take this, you're taking horse pills.
Yeah.
And this is something that has cured people around the world. And so my bill would simply make it legal would legalize ivermectin for over the counter. So you can go into it, pick your store or pharmacy and get it if you want it. It's very, very safe medication. Some nations have already, legalized it, like South Africa. We have some states as well. I think, is it Tennessee?
Idaho.
Okay, Idaho. So we have a handful of states already. So Pennsylvania, let's put the power back in the people's hands rather than the hands of the pharmaceutical companies.
Idaho has an issue though. Although it is now legal to buy ivermectin over the counter, the drug companies or the pharmacies are not allowing it to be sold. They're keeping it behind the counter and they're demanding a prescription. Can you legislate that so they can't hold people hostage? Because really, like you say, it is the probably the safest drug out on the market at this point.
Yeah, so my bill as currently written will make it freely available upon being signed into law. If it's amended, pharmaceuticals parachute into Harrisburg here and convince the House or somebody to amend it, that could change it. But the thing is, let's say the House in Pennsylvania alters it so it's that similar condition. It has to come back to the Senate, the originating chamber, for consent, and we wouldn't consent. I believe we'd say, well, no, we want to restore this to empower the people. It's all about empowering the people and not big business. And and that's the problem. You have companies making billions, like the folks seeding the sky. It's big business. I didn't know that they were even trading on it in Chicago. That a lot of money is to be had.
Oh my God, it's insane.
And that's when it becomes tougher, because then you have special interests in maybe donating to somebody's campaign, and I'm not talking, $1,000. I'm talking about, a lot of money.
A lot of money.
Getting $1,000 ain't going to change their mind. But if it promises them a big donation, if they oppose, which is unethical too, by the way, if that's found out. That's unethical. You can be drummed out of your seat.
I'm not sure that plays a part in the decision making anymore.
It does. Yeah, I am sounding a bit naive right now here. By the book, it's illegal, but whether it's enforced is a different story altogether.
Well, I mean, I can say, I've been talking to, as you know, a lot of legislators, and this is not a dig, but I do find that the people that are the most well financed, that have the best connections, seem to have been chosen for their inability to have morals. And the people like you that have fought for their position and fought for America. It's kind of in your blood to be honest. And I think that's one of the things that not only I, but, Babushka and Christy and LaShawn and Tex Maricana, it's one of the things that we really love about you. Missouri Clear Skies, baby, they're doing such a fantastic job down there.
Wow.
Yeah. So, can we talk about precedents for a minute? Because we have a little bit of precedents in the ivermectin here in Idaho, and I think also in Tennessee, but also about the geoengineering bills. And we're seeing, now I think that we're up to 34 states that are working on legislation. If your bill gets passed, it literally will be the marquee bill to stop geoengineering. Once you become governor, then you will have free access to implement that to the nth degree. And I think that it will help other states who may not have the type of leadership that Pennsylvania has get more courage to put a bill up, and then can they reach out? Can the states reach out to you and say, "Hey, our bill's a little watered down. Can we reach out to you and you help put our bill in with teeth and enforcement in it?"
Can't we just copy it?
Yes, please copy my bill. Others
Yeah,
say.
just that's what I
You
just
don't even
said.
have to ask.
Can't we just copy it? Copy and paste.
Cut and paste. Baby,
This
what are
ever-
they saying? What are they saying over there in the chat? I'm sorry, Doug. Go ahead.
No, let's go to the chat.
Human being said, "I can't believe that we have to pass a bill to stop people from poisoning us to death."
It's insane.
It's just like it's mind-boggling. It's just like a little light bulb. Like you're right. Like it's just really sad that we have to do that.
I simply can't believe it. What else are they saying? Are there any questions for the good senator here?
There have been lots, but the thing's going by so fast, and you guys have been talking. It's hard to follow. Let me see. Let me just quick. Real-time Redneck said our Idaho beehive production has a 40% mortality rate. Mortality rate. Thank you. And correlated honey production. Our beekeepers say the bees' immune systems are shot by what's coming down from the geoengineering. I mean, that's 40%.
And Doug, I think that this is one of the things that has to be addressed sooner or later. Yeah. The damage that is already done needs to be undone, and that's going to take a lot of money because they've been spraying. Lee Zeldin came out, head of the EPA, last week and said, yeah, or was it the beginning of this week? And said, yeah, we've been doing it since the 60s. So, and by doing it, I mean geoengineering, right? SAI, SRM, marine cloud brightening, NextRad. One of the things I wanted to ask you also, I'm skipping around here because now I'm excited. Now I'm ready to go. But one of the things I wanted to ask you is, are you going to start dealing with things like radiation, NextRad, 4G, 5G, Doppler, that sends, because it's essentially cooking our bee life, cooking our bird life, destroying bacteria, and it is also creating an immense amount of damage to the human body. Do you have you thought about that, or is that something that's on your radar, pun intended? Because we're talking about radar.
See how you did that, man?
I love it. That's clever, man. But so all three of my deployments to Afghanistan, and this is directly related to your question, its context, were with NATO. And so I was on a base with about 18 different countries represented, and most of them had a separate headquarters with their separate communication devices, and some had like X band, Y band, radiation for communications going out. And on our third deployment, we got back. I served with this excellent Belgian commando. He was with me on 2 of those 3 deployments. A great man. I kind of consider him my bodyguard, him and a Danish special forces guy. But he got a letter from the Belgian army after getting back saying, hey, our headquarters had this kind of communication device set up, and it emits dangerous radiation. And you might be eligible for benefits. So keep this letter here as proof that you were deployed next to this kind of device. That's similar to the 4 and 5G that we're talking about here. Those things do emit. My first job in the Army, second job technically, was in Nuremberg during the Cold War with the 2nd Cavalry Regiment. And I was an electronic warfare platoon leader. And we were using, I had one radar, one jammer. It's called the MLQ-34, Milky 34. And it was mounted on a tracked vehicle and had an array antenna. And we could do 5,000 watts against the Soviets. And we could cook hot dogs on the rods.
Right.
This is real. These communication devices do yield emissions that can be dangerous to mammals, to living organisms. So it's a fact. It's just, and it needs to be addressed. And for some reason, it's often ignored, or mocked.
I think that the more we talk about this kind of thing, and like I say, the Clear Skies movement has been around for 4.5 months tomorrow. In that time, just getting the message out has been extremely powerful. We've got Raphael O'Neill, who is brilliant, and Susan Clark, of course, with Zero Geoengineering, and as you know, right. These are people that are putting that information out there. I don't know if you heard right before you came on, I was talking about the NextRad shutting down for hours on end. And when it came back on, bang, we had the earthquake up in Sandpoint, Alaska the other day. Are you familiar with the the Project Ice Cube, the Raytheon ice neutrino project down in South America?
No, I'm not.
So one of the things that Eric Hecker was talking about is the vibrations, the ability for that very, very powerful machine to literally create earthquakes, crack the earth. And I think that we need to start taking a look at this grid that has been built around everyone, because if they can focus that, I mean, it's just, is it one knob turn away from, oops, we just killed 20,000 people?
That's a scary proposition.
Isn't it? You know, he was telling me, when I would talk to Eric, he was telling me that if I can imagine it, they can do it now. Our government has the ability to do faster than light communication, space travel up to a certain extent, but much more developed than what we have. When it comes to radiation and radar, I have a friend of mine, Dr. J. Marvin Herndon, that is a multiple interdisciplinary, there we go, geophysicist. That is a mouthful. He was telling me that the ice neutrino project down there, the Project Ice Cube, they can take and focus that array to do Christchurch, right? That's when they turned it on, the Christchurch earthquake. Or let's say that they're having a problem with Ireland, and they can focus that beam around the world and take out the country of Ireland. They can literally heat the brain to the point that it will pop inside your head.
Oh my God, this is sci-fi.
I know. I Senator, I'm sorry. I didn't know that you were here for Scary Story Hour. But it plays to my point. You know, where's the oversight for the 5G, the 4G? Where's the oversight for the NextRad? Where is the oversight for the Doppler radar, for the HARP stations?
You're overwhelming the poor man.
I'm sorry. He has so many good answers. What am I supposed to do?
So a couple of decades ago, I was in charge of a black program that was, operated on several continents. And, the tech back then, it foreshadowed what we have today.
Yeah.
And that's several decades ago. So, and that's just the thing. A lot of these classified programs are supposed to have oversight at the federal level by Congress. The Intel oversight committees in the House and Senate are supposed to go over these, but I think sometimes they're obscured, and not completely talked about. There's good programs, but national security is a big deal. We watched the erosion of civil rights after 9/11, and it was a tragic thing that happened. I think we got to be real careful there because Franklin warned us. If you're willing to compromise security and give up your freedoms here, basically you deserve it. And Franklin warned in 1755 about that during the French Indian War. Because be careful, empowering your government too much. And I just don't know how you rein it in. I think the first step is the reduction in the size of the government. I don't know why there's outrage and people are crying outside the State Department building because in the 90s, Bill Clinton didn't bat an eye cutting 1 million men from the Army.
Right.
He reduced, we had 19 combat divisions. He took us down to 10. He cut us by 40-some% in our force size by combat divisions, not just manpower.
Right.
And so, cuts in the federal government are natural. I watch good officers, being kicked out of the military, and just because it was extremely competitive when that was going on, Sergey, it was zero defect. You had to be perfect, and who's perfect?
Yeah.
And you're running a career. It's not big business where you can stab other guys in the back. You got to be a team member. You got to work with your brothers and sisters in uniform. But 2 of you are going out of the 5 of you on the team.
Yeah.
And I didn't see a lot of you always have kiss ups and what have you here, but generally people stood together, and if the cuts came, they took it professional. But I didn't see a lot of wailing and gnashing of teeth by the citizens out there, like, how dare you cut the government?
Right.
And so that's a start, is reducing, because you have this massive bureaucracy of unregulated, really career bureaucrats who wait out senators and Congress people, who just are always there every day. I worked in the Pentagon for some time in the 90s during this interesting time. And the saying there was, and this was true, 20% of us in D.C. do 80% of the work.
Yeah.
That's a fact.
I listen, I firmly believe that because I have met a lot of politicians, and there are very few of them that are worth anything except being a yes man to the people that put them in office. Speaking of politicians, babe, today you told me that the Democratic Party
It's like down to 19%.
19% approval rate.
Wow.
Do you think that we're looking at the end of the Democratic Party?
Maybe. We saw this cycle in '92, I think, or '94 when Gingrich had the Republican Revolution in Congress.
Yep.
It was similar conversations. Is this the end of the Democrat Party? Under Clinton, he was agile, like him or not, and I didn't like him, but he moderated the party. And right now we're seeing the party's not moderating. It's even more extreme. Pennsylvania is on the cusp after a century of being Democrat. We're close to flipping Republican. We're about 300. Just a couple of years ago, Sergey, the Democrats had like a 2 million registered advantage in Pennsylvania. That's huge out of 13 million population. Now they're down to 300,000. It's a rapid bleeding, and so in desperation, the Democrat governor in power right now, he initiated the motor voter registration, where you go get your driver's license, you go ahead and register to vote, thinking that would be a boom for Democrats, and guess what? It was a boom for Republicans.
Right.
They had like a 60 to 80% surge in registrations, depending on the county. We gained in all 67 counties Republicans this last quarter.
Yeah.
And so if they stay radical, which they are, we've seen them become the anti-Semitic party. We've seen them as the pro-Hamas party.
Yep.
Yeah. The party of Wall Street. Yeah, it's interesting. We're watching some of the attributes, critiqued of conservatives are really the Democrats haven't, who stands up for the working class now? It's the Republicans. And
Right.
so whether it's the end of the party nationwide, I don't know. It really depends. I hope it is. But in Pennsylvania, they're trending in the wrong direction.
Yeah, absolutely. That brings up the next little segue into Elon Musk's American Party. Do you think that's pomp and circumstance? Do you think it's going to have any traction? If it does, obviously the hurt is going to come from the Republican Party.
I don't know. I mean, he's got the money to do whatever he wants. I wish there wasn't this bifurcation between him and the Trump administration. I don't know what happened behind the scenes. It must have been bad. It must have been ugly. It must have been personal. I would hope that somebody like Elon would understand you can't get everything you want. This in politics, Benjamin Franklin said politics is the art of the possible. And so, yes, you have all these cuts, but you're not going to get them all. You have to go through 435 members in the House and 100 members in the Senate. I mean, so it's not going to be your package. It's going to be their package.
Right.
It's going to get watered down. And yes, there's going to be pork barrel projects left on there. And anytime we've seen this before, it hurt us. In 1912, we had Teddy Roosevelt disenfranchised, Republican Teddy Roosevelt president. He was going to run for another term, and they're like, no, you already had your chance. And he was disenfranchised by the establishment. They brought in their guy that they couldn't control Teddy Roosevelt. They brought in their guy. And because of that, in the closest election until Bush Gore, Woodrow Wilson won. This incompetent boob from Princeton, a professor with no life experience. And his ineptness led to thousands of Americans dying in front of German machine guns in 1917, 1918, because he believed that he could talk the Germans out of war, and he did not prepare a nation for war. So I say all that because then we have, of course, Ross Perot in 1992 with George Bush Sr. and Clinton. Ross Perot, I don't know what his grudge match was. It was odd, but he stripped away the votes from the Republican, and that brought in Clinton, which brought in Obama, which brought in Biden. And so if this happens, it's going to damage us severely, and we're going to be hard pressed to retain a presidency anytime in the future.
Well, we got a lot more to talk about, but it is, of course, 8:30. I know that you are a busy man. Senator Doug Mastriano, soon to be the next governor of Pennsylvania. Thank you, Doug, very, very much. I always love our conversations. You're an incredible man, and I can't thank you enough for leaving your cushy life and doing the hard work that it is to be a leader.
Thank you. Thanks to you and your movement, Babushka, LaShawn Love, and all the other folks out there working so hard. I'm so grateful for your work. It's sometimes, Sergey, you feel like you're alone out there in the battle, and we're not. So keep up the fight.
We certainly will. We will talk to you next time. Until then,
Yeah,
I'm Sergey Brown.
And I'm Dawn.
And that is Senator Mastriano. Have a good night, everybody. We'll
Thank
see you
you.
next time.